That Goblin is going to stick to his guns and do what he does hiccups so traditionally. And that possibly mech could be a counter to it. For now, let me introduce our first player in the top right of Eternal Empire Ladder Edition. He plays for Team Rotti from Croatia. The 18, 19, I don't know, the child. It's Goblin.
And at that bottom left-hand side in the blue from Starcom Gaming, we have got our Russian Terran player. His name is BratOK.
Yeah.
By the way, just to amend my previous statement, Grant, I said he's the Pan of StarCraft 2. That's the wrong mythological figure. I did want to, in fact, call him the Puck of StarCraft 2, that mischievous figure from Shakespeare who encourages other people to do things that are against their own interest. I think that's a much better fit rather than Pan, who's incorrect.
So that's where the character from Final Fantasy IX gets its name.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it must. It's the same thing. It's a play. It's a mischievous figure that tells Vivi to do stuff. Why am I talking about Final Fantasy? Goblin is going for a block here onto the common Reaper path to at least minimize. Nice.
It's one of those British words like orientate, where you just add extra syllables for no reason, because you're wrong.
Minimize. Oh,
yeah,
God.
I like it. Grant, I love that we're being this silly in our first hour, but it took Steadfast and I 6 hours to get to this point yesterday. We were just like, what are words even? And now you and I are already just gone.
God, I
love it. I love it.
So we do have a Cybercore and then Nexus here from Goblin, playing very safe here against the possibility of a Reaper coming out here, which of course is on its way from BratOK, who I believe did just manage to kill the scouting probe of Goblin. That is the case.
Yeah.
How much did Goblin get to see? He got to see the front. He doesn't get to see anything else. Factory going down behind us. Everything looking pretty standard here, although the CC going down a little bit later. After the factory is a little bit interesting, but we'll see what's going on here. Oh my god, why is this tech lab on the factory straight away?
This is so smart from BratOK, and I love it. Building the factory way behind and hiding the fact that he took those 2 gases pretty early to this game is going to prevent Goblin from even suspecting that he's going for this very early mag field accelerator cyclone build. When you get those 2 gases early, you've got a couple options as a Terran player. Battle Cruiser, Cloaked Banshee, or some weird mech combination, sometimes early Siege Tank if you're feeling more defensive, or you can go for this early Cyclone. This is such a powerful build, especially since Goblin himself is also doing an unusual build. It is going to be Observer first into, I imagine, Warp Prism for some Blink Stalkers, but there's no Twilight Council down just yet, Grant.
Yeah, Goblin might be going for a very quick Colossus push here. I'm waiting to see what the follow-up building is going to be, or if he's just going to use a Robo to take a very quick natural. A very quick third even, excuse me, that's a possibility as well. But Goblin needs to be safe. He cannot underestimate his opponent right now, because Cyclones with Magfield Accelerators do a whole lot of damage, and especially in low numbers with the ability to lock on and kite, they're very efficient. Goblin hasn't gone for any other tech right now. The Immortal is very important here. If you can get the Immortal out and safe, he's going to be in a good spot to defend against the push that is to come here from our Terran player. Does get a pretty nice Reaper Grenade here. Should not get a probe. Yeah, that goes down. But a full scout right now for BratOK and Goblin. Not yet able to really see what is going on.
I do just want to point out, that Goblin not only missing what's going on, his observer that came across the map did not see that Cyclone at all. The Cyclone from BratOK now out on the map and could be very dangerous. Now, he's going to suspect what's going on now the observer's seen that factory, but he didn't see that first Cyclone walking around now. And since BratOK has control of the Xel'Naga watchtower on the far side of the map, and Magfield Accelerator has finished up, Goblin could be in a very dangerous position. If he moves too far out, that Immortal could get sniped down very, very quickly.
Yeah, Goblin knows 100% now it's Magfield Accelerator. His observer did go down to the scan and Magfield Cyclone, so he is very aware. He's adding on an extra battery down here in the natural. He already has an Immortal. He's getting a Prism. He has the tools needed to deal with this, and he's keeping a good eye on it as well with a second observer. Behind this, though, BratOK has taken a very, very quick third, and if that pays off, that could end up being really good here for Terran player.
Yeah, very nice lock-ons there. I love the aggression or the posturing from Goblin there. Nice army positioning to try and drive him back a little further away from the natural. So he was did a really nice job there not to overextend, waited for the lock-ons to happen before moving away from his shield battery, and he's kept he's kept his Immortals safe right now and his Warp Prism. So those Robo units, very, very dear to Goblin, and he hasn't lost them yet. Third base now down from Goblin, extended Thermal Lance on the way.
Yeah, so we are seeing, of course, that complete mech build here from BratOK, but Goblin is prepared. He hasn't gone for his traditional Void Raise style. He's going into Colossus, getting extended Thermal Lance. He has an Immortal already out, and against sort of Widowmine Cyclone, Colossus are very, very good, because these Cyclones, they may look like big bricks, but they're very, very squishy. They really don't take too many shots. And with the Prism here, as soon as the lock-on goes in, you load up into the Prism, and you cancel that lock-on, but the Prism has now been targeted. It needs to not go down like that. Now this is a little bit scary for Goblin, who is fighting on multiple fronts, has a complete wall over here. This is cute, saving his natural, and needs to keep this third alive, though.
Gotta keep the third alive. That's the whole name of the game right now. BratOK, of course, already has his third finished, cranking out triple SCV. Is going to have a very scary economy, and that's something the Protoss players simply can't deal with. If he isn't able to shut it down at all. It's a lot like playing a Zerg player. You've got to try and restrict him on bases, because if you let BratOK do exactly what BratOK wants to do, BratOK is going to roll you over with these Cyclones and now 2 tanks at a time. So we are going to see this mech versus Protoss really play out the way that BratOK had hoped for.
Yeah, Goblin's doing what I believe to be the best solution to this. He is going to go for a quick 7-minute transition into air units here. And Tempest, carriers and things, very good against mech, if you can get there. He already has Colossi to keep himself safe. You can see the Fleet Beacon is on the way, +1 air weapons is on the way. Tanks being moved into now from BratOK, and Goblin is already on his third. He's about to try and take his 4th base. And as long as he can keep all of these tools alive, Goblin's in a really good spot.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love to see these games where both players are, you can look at both players and be like, you know what? Both players in a good spot right now. Both players activating what they need to do. Both players really building what they want to build. And that means we're going to see at the end of the game, or the final fight or whatever, a really holistic fight from both sides. And that's what I really love to see. Goblin already swapping into carriers at the 8-minute mark of the game. Pardon me. Already swapping into carriers at the 8-minute mark of the game. And that's an incredibly fast carrier transition. But already, Force coming out from BratOK here. Magfield Accelerator Cyclones on. What do you think about Goblin's choice to go carriers here against a mech army that might be able to eat them for lunch?
I think carriers, if you have Disruptor support, is actually really good. And we do have a Disruptor already out. If that continues, I'm not too concerned here. Goblin's doing a good job of expanding quickly as well. He gets a mech player, that's kind of what you want to do, because he does lose a bit of agility. Hellions, of course, are nice to get around the map. They don't have Blue Flame yet, and Goblin has his army in a relatively decent position to be able to react to this. Does he have Blink? No, okay. But I just think it's interesting right now. Goblin is certainly, we're in the calm before the storm. Both players are adding on those big tech units. We see a Fusion Core coming in. We see, of course, already carriers, Gravitic Drive, +2 air weapons. We have all the upgrades coming in here for BratOK, all the upgrades coming in from Goblin. And if Goblin can just survive for a few minutes, he's going to be in a good spot. He sees this army, and that's very, very important, as he can now reposition.
Good little scout there by that Adept to shade on across. I will say Goblin's already on +2 air weapons, whereas BratOK is only just now finishing up his 1-1. He does have the double engineer, or the double armory spinning back home, but he was very late to get those armories up, instead focusing on early army supply to make sure he didn't get rushed by Goblin. And wow, 3 forward missile turrets already going down. Nice cleanup there by Goblin, but BratOK now knows what he's up against. He's working on double battlecruiser back home, and with drilling claws, battle cruisers, Magfield Accelerator, I'm genuinely a bit worried for your boy Goblin. I think it only takes one bad engagement for Goblin, and BratOK's going to destroy him if he moves out of position even one time.
I'd like to see more Disruptors in this so he can start outranging and finding the damage that he needs to find. But it's certainly, yeah, I agree. Goblin is in a position of vulnerability right now, and it's going to be a little bit sketchy for him. He does have +2 air weapons, about 3/4 of the way done, as you said. Zealot charge is on the way, but Yamato double battle cruiser coming in. Very nice counters pre-prepared here by BratOK, and it looks like both players just going to respect this. And it looks like we'll be moving into a late game here.
Oh, definitely. Definitely a late game, if not an ultra late game. I really transitions already from Goblin, though. Not that many players, not that many Protoss players that I've seen have the foresight to scrub in those charge lots very early. Charge lots super valuable on the ground if you've got all carriers right now, just for a little bit of diversity, but also because they can move forward, soak up the shots from the... Hang on, Blue Flame Hellion run by. Oh, God, so many probes going down here. 8, 9, 10, this is totally worth it. For BratOK here. Beautifully done. That's going to put him 12 workers ahead. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. But I love the use of Charge Zealots from Goblin, already scrubbing in a few extra gateway units. Going all air can be so dangerous. I mean, imagine one Widowmine shot on those clumped up carriers, or God forbid, 3 of them. There's so much potential for huge mistakes out of Goblin, and Zealots sort of reduce that risk a little bit, and they're so cheap.
Another run by coming in here. It looks like BratOK has figured out his way to snowball this game into his favor, forcing Goblin to send some Stalkers and some Zealots back to deal with this. Now we do have a big fight going down here in the south side. It looks like the Carrier's getting on top of a lot of this army. The battle cruisers are here, but they're very low in number, and Carrier's actually tearing through this army. Goblin all of a sudden destroys everything BratOK has. He's going to kill this forward base, most likely. And did any Carriers go down?
Not a single one. Not one carrier's gone down. A couple interceptors getting focused, but not the carriers themselves. That was about the best engagement Goblin could have hoped for. Gee, and BratOK knows he's been broken. Team Roddy's Goblin grabs game number 1, Grant.
I mean, he just made stuff and moved, right? Like, as we said, BratOK was moving into double battlecruiser production, and they take a long time to produce. Goblin had already hit critical mass, right? He already had like 6, 7 carriers, and just finding his moment. Widowmine's not getting what they needed. The Thor's not able to take down any carriers. It was a near perfect attack there. I mean, I don't know what to say. It looks like Goblin knows how to play against mech.
Yeah, BratOK with an interesting choice. That's one of the reasons mech against Protoss is so dangerous, because if you read it coming, as Goblin did, you can build up an army that is dangerous all the time, right? A couple Colossi, some charge lots, some carriers. That army, always going to be dangerous. Disruptors to zone out, it's scary. Whereas the Terran army is only scary if parts of Goblin's army are caught out of position, right? If your Thors can siege up and take out a couple carriers before the carriers get on top of them. If you can land some Widowmine shots and then hopefully soften them up a bit. So I think Goblin had a more sustainable, holistic army that game. And that's, again, one of the reasons that it's so difficult to keep that mech army up and running, because it's just, you kind of require your opponent to make a mistake, or you get up to 37 Thors and just destroy him. So really well played by Goblin there to identify the problem, see that it was mech, and get the exact correct army so that there was no counter available for BratOK here. Grant, can BratOK go for mech in game number 2 and still win?
Yeah, I think so. He figured out what worked. He figured it out a little bit late. And that was the run buys. He had Hellions for a lot of the map, and he did for a lot of the game even. He didn't send them across the map at all. So if he can get those going a little bit early, then I think he needs to slow Goblin down, because Goblin's very, very adept at playing the Stargate game. And if he can do that and then move into the same game with another, 15 probes killed prior to that, Goblin's not going to have as many carriers. He's not going to have as much, and I think there's potential. I just think we need to see BratOK up the aggression.
Ooh, that's a really good point. Yeah, BratOK didn't get anything done aggression-wise that game until I noticed at the very end that 4 Hellion run-by that finally cleared out some probes. But almost the entire game, he stayed back and kind of waited, which generally is what you do when you're a mech player, right? You've got all these units that give you good zone control, all these defensive units. But he didn't really go out on the map with those Magfield Accelerator Cyclones or those Blue Flame Hellions and get too much done in the early game. Really good point there, and I think you're right. If BratOK wants to win this one, a little more aggression has got to be on the table.
But now, my friend, let us introduce our players in the bottom right of Death Aura, trailing 0-1 in this series, playing for Starcom, representing Mother Russia. It's BratOK.
And his opponent in the top left-hand side in the red, the greatest StarCraft 2 player that Croatia has ever produced. Representing Team Roddy and the Protoss, it's our red player, Goblin.
Rotterdam, of course, our hero for these players, giving them a home to try and let other teams know how good they truly are.
They live in the spare room of his apartment.
Yeah. No, he's got loads of spare rooms. His house is like a mansion.
They eat his table scraps. I mean, come on.
No, he treats them well. He does treat them well. And the entire point of that team is for them to find new homes eventually. He just wants to give attention to those that maybe weren't getting it and were very up and coming. And I think, I mean, you can't go and watch Acheron or Goblin right now without thinking they're one of Rotti's boys. They've certainly surged in popularity thanks to our Dutch saviour. And it's exciting to see where these two young men go.
I've heard that he unchains them from their desks on alternating weekends as well. And actually, I've heard recently, the last month, he's taken them for a walk in the park. So they've actually been outside for the first time and away from their computers training, which, you know, you would expect exactly that from Rotterdam, to keep those guys chained to their desks 16 hours a day, playing StarCraft and doing nothing else. But it's so nice of him to hear a story about a nice, generous team owner like Rotterdam, who allows his players to be the shackles physically removed from their ankles every other weekend. It's so nice.
I can promise you, I can swear to you that Goblin has not been outside. Cybernetics core finishing and then Adapt immediately starting up. We have a bit of something
like, go, you're free. And he's like, no, I'm good inside, man.
Yeah.
Chain me back to the desk. I'll keep playing.
Yeah. But not StarCraft, we'll be playing League of Legends. Second Rex coming down here from BratOK, who's looking to get aggressive in this matchup now. Seeing a little bit of 2 Rex action, and Goblin has also changed up his play. Oh, what's this?
Come on,
okay,
Gabo. As soon as he called him out, he fixed it, of course. But yeah, we get the Stargate first here. Now, what are the odds, Grant, that we see that Void Ray first? Both gases saturated, taken pretty early. Is Goblin going to go Void Rays here?
I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see an Oracle for scouting, because one thing Goblin didn't get to do last game was scout, but also it's Goblin, so he's probably going to make a Void Ray just for shits and giggles.
If this Reaper gets in to see it, though. Oh, he snipes it! Oh, what a snipe from Goblin!
Okay, so it is going to be Phoenix, Goblin channeling his inner slave owner, Rotti, and making those Phoenixes nice and early. We do see the barracks, of course, coming. Stim on the way. There's just going to be a lot of Marines moving across very early. Probably, where is the factory? Is it behind the mineral line? Oh, it's down here, okay. Probably, yeah, with Widowmine's support. This has got potential to do a lot of damage. Now, Goblin will be able to deal with medevac and things like that, of course, with his Phoenixes, and he's going to be able to lift up a lot. But it's still difficult. Widowmines are very good against everything Goblin is going to have. And if he makes one mistake, he could be in a lot of trouble. Goblin, of course, has not yet identified what he's playing against. Now he sees the second Rax and Stim on the way. He now knows, and he should start producing quite a few units. Warp Gate finishing up. Is he going to add on any more gateways? How many is he currently on? 1?
Yeah, interesting here from Goblin. Continuing to make those Phoenix instead of dropping down another gateway. I would almost want to say he should probably stop Phoenix production soon. Phoenix against Mass Marine, it just straight up isn't that great. You know, they're going to melt instantaneously. Maybe they lift a few. If they're very fortunate, they can take off a siege tank or maybe drive a Raven back. But really not going to be the most efficient builds here. So I'm a little surprised to see Goblin still making a 3rd and now a 4th Phoenix, as opposed to, as you said, dropping down more than this one single gateway and getting some more on the ground right now. BratOK's going to have a distinct window here once Stim finishes up to move across and maybe get some damage done.
Yeah, Goblin's done a good job of keeping them at home, because Stim is going to finish like pretty soon, and I think BratOK probably wanted to already be halfway across the map by now. You can see he's stuck at home because he doesn't want to take any damage, and Goblin's going very old school Goblin, and he's going to play Phoenix Colossus, and this is what he's best at. This is where he made his name as a developing player, is playing Phoenix Colossus. And if he can just survive long enough, and he's doing a grand job of getting to that stage, his army is very difficult to deal with, because medevacs just go pop, and then Colossus make everything go pop again. Behind this, he's got a few adepts. I think Goblin's in a really good spot. No 3rd yet from either player. We should see that taken pretty soon from both. You can see it's just gone down as I'm speaking there in the main for BratOK, and Goblin should move out pretty shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, as you said, BratOK staying back home longer than he wants to. Stim finished up. Combat Shield's a third of the way done now. He's only just now adding on his first Engineering Bay, already Extended Thermal Lance on the way. So BratOK's timing not really lining up with, I think, what he wanted to do this game. So Goblin's Phoenix are paying off, despite my initial reticence about the continued production of those Phoenix. He's trying to sneak in and slow down this command center. He will succeed just a little bit here, but needs to get out of there. Playing it very safe. Doesn't want to lose any of these Phoenix early on. That would be a certain death sentence here. Ooh, Goblin going for a third base. I thought he might hold off on that third for a little while longer, but seeing the third of BratOK going down, allowing him to drop his own down, I love seeing both players going for a third base. It looks like we might be in for another decently long game here, Grant.
Yeah, Goblin's in a good position, and I like it. This is his roots. This is what he's best at. If you were to ask me, what does Goblin do? I'd say he makes Void Rays and he plays Phoenix Colossus. Whereas BratOK is playing Bio, and of course he's like a veteran, a pro. He's been doing this a very long time, but it is not his strength. He has traditionally been a mech player this tournament, just losing workers. Wow, that's a good chunk. But he's moving out right now. He does have a Raven with enough energy, I believe, for 2 interference matrices, or matrices, at least getting close. Extends matrices.
Yes. There you go.
If that Raven gets sniped, this becomes very difficult here for our Terran player. But it does look like he's going to be able to get definitely 1, not second. Okay, this is okay, because 1 Colossus should be enough alongside Guardian Shield. He needs to save the other one, move up to the high ground. He doesn't have that much, but the Marauders now going down. Reinforcements being walked in the form of Zealots. They do not have charge, of course, but they do force AI mistakes and targeting. And Goblin holds fantastically.
I mean, absolutely beautiful hold there by Goblin. That micro on those Colossi was gorgeous. He was trying to bait shots onto the interference matrix seed Colossi, and then BratOK didn't even have the ability, didn't even have the DPS in that fight to go for it. And now BratOK finds himself in a deep hole this game. He's a base behind his opponent. He's 13 workers behind his opponent. Sure, his upgrade's slightly ahead here, and in fact, Goblin just dropping that forge now. But that's the only thing he's got going for him here, these +1/+1 upgrades that will be finished before that. Even the production for Goblin looking a lot healthier than it did. He's got 5 gates down, should see 3 more coming soon, and he's adding on +1 air weapons to make those Phoenix even more dangerous.
Yeah, we might see Goblin move for a transition knowing he's ahead. It's very, very much like him to throw down a fleet beacon as soon as he gets a whim, gets a sniff that he's in a good position. He likes to transition into that late game, so that's where he's most confident with air units, with mass air units. That's his best. You know, that's why he makes Phoenix Colossus. That's why he plays Void Ray, because he's just good in the air. He is adding on armor upgrades and Zealot chart here for his boys on the ground, though. Continuing to produce Phoenixes, Dark Shrine on the way. Goblin has a 4th base. He is going to sit back on his laurels a little bit, and I'm a little bit worried because he is quite behind in upgrades, but Chrono Boost is bloody good, so he will be able to catch up in not too much time.
Chrono Boost is bloody good. That's absolutely correct here. Man, BratOK, what are you doing, buddy? He does finally have a missile turret in his natural, but he's going to eat damage from these Phoenix day in and day out. And look at that, Goblin even diving on top of a Viking to try and soften BratOK up a little bit. I do like that BratOK is keeping his army supply pretty high, but he's doing it at the expense of building a 4th command center, of building more SCVs. It looks like BratOK stuck on 3 bases right now, and is going to have to push sooner rather than later, because the longer this game goes on, the better and better it gets for Gobbo.
Yeah, he's 3 base, but he's only on 5 racks, so he can't really just parade push. You want to be closer to 7 or 8 for that. Now, his upgrades, of course, as we said, are good, but we can see Goblin is already close to 1-1-1 across the board, and if he can buy enough time, and he will see this coming with the Observer, if he can get to those upgrades, he already has a Disruptor as well. He has Colossus, he has range, his 2nd Disruptor joining the fray. His army a little bit frail, but it's a glass cannon right now. If he can just hit those Disruptor shots or anything along those lines, he's going to be in such a great spot to not die.
Yeah, Phoenix should be able to sweep in here pretty quickly as well with those siege tanks in the back side. If he can find a good angle, he can pick up all those tanks. The Phoenix need to go around the top side and then around to the east to try and pick those tanks up. They're not going on the right push right now, and it looks like Goblin's going to be forced into engagement here. I'm not sure he really wants to take this fight, but he's going to go ahead and dive down anyway. The tank's out of this right now, allowing the bio forces, or the gateway forces of Goblin to tear through BratOK right now, and the last tank going to get destroyed here, and BratOK getting completely cleaned up by that DPS from Goblin.
Yeah, GG is cool. Goblin just too strong.